I would define creativity as the process of asking what if. It's a process of curiosity. It's asking, well, what if I did this? What if the next time I did this instead of this? What if I changed this little detail? I think creativity is following what is interesting to you and being open to what might come next. My name is Brooke Bowlin, and I am a multidisciplinary artist. I've been teaching myself to sew, which has been really refreshing for my creative process because it's the first time I've really pursued something that is completely new to me. So it's like I'm falling back in love with that creative process yet again. I think the first time I, bought my own sketchbook and supplies was around age 8. It's just something that has been a part of my life, and it's something that has taken many different forms throughout my life, and I've jumped around to different disciplines. I like to read poetry and just use that as a mechanism to start thinking visually, because I think poetry lends itself to that. Then I will start sketching digitally, because digital sketching just helps you be more flexible in that iterative, experimental process. I envision the scale of the piece, measure, get the dimensions I want, and then I will transfer over to whatever medium I'm working on. So I started sewing about a year and a half ago, and I did that because of my interest in fashion and sustainability, because of my depth of knowledge on the topic of the fashion industry and textiles at large. I wanted to have that applied knowledge. And so I started teaching myself to sew and loved it, loved learning that new skill, and loved the creative experimentation that came with that. I wanted to tie in the past experiences I've had with painting and illustration and bring that lens to sewing. And I also wanted to do that in a way that aligned with my values, with my interest in climate and sustainability. So I use entirely secondhand materials and really work to create from a lens that honors the resources that go into the piece. For this particular piece of work, I based it off of a poem that I really like by Adrienne Rich. This poem is about the individual versus the collective and how we get caught up in ourselves and lose sight of the collective, the world that we're a part of. And so I use that as the basis when I was thinking about what I would be creating. I kind of pulled from different source imagery that I liked and used the language of the poetry to inform what visuals I pursued. For this piece, I'm doing a combination of painting and illustrative sewing. So I'll start by getting the fabric ready, prepping it for the painting, then doing the painting piece, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine and complete the rest of the process by sewing. One of the most challenging things about my current creative process is the fact that I am new to sewing, and sometimes the visions in my head I don't quite know how to accomplish. So there's a lot of experimentation that has to go on. That is both exciting because I'm always learning something new in that, but it also means that I might not end up with the product that I want, and that's okay. Creativity ultimately is honed in the practice of it. You have to get your hands dirty in creative work, I think. You have to commit to showing up to your creative practice and commit to feeding it And sometimes feeding it looks like going to a museum, going outside, getting in nature, like taking in a lot. I think that is what an artist does. They take in their environment and everything around them. So sometimes that's what feeding creativity looks like. Sometimes it's dialoguing with other artists or anyone that you find interesting. And all of these things can inform your creativity, but ultimately at the end of the day, then you have to take all that you're getting from the world and bring it to life in a way that is interesting to you and that appeals to, the questions you're asking yourself about the world. You hone your creative practice by practicing it and by giving it the time and attention. I believe that everyone is inherently creative, and I believe that because we are made in the image of God. When it comes to being a person of faith and the role that art has, valuing creative work and creative practice is valuing something that's important to God. God as the creator is the first way that we're introduced to God in Genesis. And it's something that's often dismissed in the modern church. It's not prioritized. I think that is a major disservice to ourselves and to the witness of our faith. Pursuing art is inherently an experience that will open your mind and expand your understanding of the world. And that's something that's always valuable, and it's especially valuable for people of faith to be open to the diversity of the world that God created and to seek to understand that. I would define an artist as someone who is paying attention. They're paying attention to their environment, to their interior lives, to the context that we exist in, and then they're translating that into a creative work. Someone who takes all of those experiences and makes something of it and helps then those around them to process their own experience of the world through the lens that the artist is bringing to their work. I think of creativity as a trait like patience. It's something that we all have the capacity to work on and develop. You might be a little more patient than someone else, and we would all agree that developing patience would make a better world. And in the same way, I think that working on developing our own creativity will make a better world for everyone. A lot of the time, the role of the artist is to interpret the human experience and to reflect on it and to say something about it. It's super important to be reflective people and to be curious people. And art helps us do that, and it helps us understand ourselves. It helps us understand each other. And I think that is always a worthwhile pursuit.